Hi, welcome to your very first Fajardo Friday Life Lesson. And before I get started, I should probably explain what to you a Fajardo Friday is. So, years and years ago, as I started teaching, I every Friday I would have something on my mind, something that had happened during the week, or students would say something, and I'd be like, we need to stop and think about this. I teach English, debate, and communication arts. While those are important things to learn, there are some life tips that. Even when I was in high school, I wish I had had these little tips in high school to kind of set me up for later on in life. I did have a teacher who did do something like that every once in a while, and those lessons still stick with me. So I thought, okay, well, let's just do the same thing. And over the years, students have been like, Miss Fajardo, you need to make like a YouTube channel or something. I would watch it. And I was just always like, okay, whatever. It's gotten to a point, though, where students are. They continuously say it every year, so I'm like, oh, okay, I'll give it a shot. I'll see what it's like, and it's pretty raw. I'm not doing a whole lot of cool screen things. Maybe later on, if this actually takes off or something, maybe this will look a little bit differently. But at least this is it's me, really me that you're talking to. And they want to hear about these Fajardo Fridays. So on Fridays, I always give them a little lesson. Sometimes I plan it ahead of time a little bit at what I want to say. Sometimes, life around me kind of motivates me to say certain things and have certain discussions. And sometimes the students will ask me, hey, do you have any tips about this or that? And I'll be like, okay, sure. And I'll give them the answer to the best of my ability. I always try to tell them that as a teacher, I would hope that you would think that whatever it is I tell you, it is meant in trying to help you in life. There isn't your typical teacher isn't trying to ruin your life. We're just trying to give you what we think are the best possible pointers. Okay. So that's where this all originated from. So these are my students telling me that I should do this. And so here is your first Fajardo Friday Life Lesson. And I think it's actually pretty um, important given that this is actually my birthday week. And so for your first lesson, it's going to be focused on something that I decided this year. So 2020 has been a very difficult year. And if you've lost anyone, I am so sorry. And I really wish the best for you in the hardship that is 2020. And if you have any other difficulties in 2020, I totally am here for you. I wish in my heart and mind that things would be easier in whatever it is you're going through in life. So, and having said that, 2020 has opened up my eyes a lot, and definitely to literally life, since some things have happened in my life that make me realize even more so that life is pretty precious, pretty short, and never a guarantee, ever. Some of you already know this, and some of you have yet to even remotely understand it. So just understand that if you have no idea the feeling of loss, it's difficult, and I'm hoping maybe this will help you if you ever end up having to feel some loss anytime soon. So life is difficult, and here's what I decided for my birthday. I called up my mom and my dad, and I was like, Mom, Dad, for this birthday year, can you do me a favor? I just want you to record some stories for me. Mom, can you record my birth story? Because every birthday she will call me and she'll tell me about the day that I was born. And every year I look forward to it. Not just because it's about me, but it's about because it's a connection that she and I have. It's a tradition that she and I have. And so I love hearing the story of when I was born, and I love hearing all these other kinds of stories too. Um, but it also dawned on me that there's going to be a time where my mom is not going to call me and she's not going to tell me that story. There will come a day when that happens. Life has guaranteed that. And the same thing goes with my dad and my brothers and my sisters. And so I came up with the idea this year that I'm actually kind of scared not hearing these stories again. So I want to keep these stories. Not just stories about me, but stories about them, like stories that I was just brought up hearing. So for example, my dad, he was in the Vietnam War, and he's really short, okay, extremely short. So he would tell me about how he would run cargo on planes. And so they would drop the plane down, and of course they're getting shot at, and so they would have to run the cargo off of the plane and then rush back onto the plane. And he would tell me these stories, and I'd be like, "Were you wearing a bulletproof vest? I mean, these people are shooting at you." And he was like, "No!" And his face and his expressions, the way he says it every time, is what I just live for, because just the way he says it, the way he tells this story, I love it. And he'd be like, "No!" And because it's too heavy and he's so short, and so he wouldn't wear the vest. He would run off the plane without a vest, and get the cargo off, because he said that it would help him be faster. He thought that if he didn't have the vest on, he had a better chance of living, because he could run faster and get back on the plane faster. And just to hear him tell me such an out there kind of story, I love hearing it. And then he would tell me about how when he was on the plane, I would be like, "Well, didn't you at least put the vest back on when you were on the plane?" "No!" And he was like, "The bullets are coming from underneath, so I'm gonna sit on it." And his whole body movement when he does this, um, it's just my dad. And so I love hearing the story. And of course, I try to get him to tell it to me, anytime I can, because I love hearing the story. So, what I'm telling you in terms of a Fajardo tip for your life, um, having people record stories, it's you have to understand that sooner or later these people who you love to hear stories from aren't going to be there anymore. And so having them record some of these stories down so that you can see them later when inevitably they're gone, showing them to your children, showing them to your grandchildren, whatever it may be, they are there when they are not. And it's hard. It was a really hard thing to deal with this year. And so I wanted to make sure that I had some stories, that I have these things for when they're gone. So my life lesson to you is record the stories, have them. We have the technology to be able to keep them and see them later, and record them so you don't lose these stories later on. They're more precious to you later on in life. Maybe you don't see how precious they are now, but I want you to think of it this way. Think of a story in your life, a story that you enjoy hearing from, whether it be a sibling, a friend, a family member, that you enjoy listening to, and that you've heard a few times, and you just like the story. And just imagine never being able to hear that story again. There's a key fear in not being able to hear those voices and hear those stories again. And there's even a part of me that worries that those stories are going to be forgotten. Um, with in the case of my dad, one of the things that he told me one time, he signed up to go to Vietnam. He'd gone twice, and I was like, "Why did you go? Like, you chose to go." And this is when I'm a little kid, and I'm hearing about, just in history classes, what happened with the Vietnam War. And he had said one time that, well, it was one less person forced to go. As long as he went, that meant somebody else didn't have to go. And that's profound to me to hear him say something like that. And I just want to record it so that I have it for later, and I want to share it. Uh, and maybe it doesn't mean anything to anybody, but it means something to me, because that's his character. And I just want to remember that. So make a list of short stories, little stories that you want to hear from these people. If there are stories that you're afraid that are someday going to disappear when the person is gone, make a list of those stories and have them record that story. Have them record it with their face. I mean, yes, you can do like vocal recording and all that, but keep in mind, part of enjoying the storytelling is the way they look and the way they sound when they're doing this all together. So make a list and try to get those stories, record them, keep them safe, keep them precious, because they're not going to be there later on. All right? And it's a sad first Fajardo Friday life lesson, but I think it's appropriate given that it's my birthday week and I want to hear my birthday story, and I don't ever want to forget my birthday story, and I don't ever want to not hear my birthday story. So, yeah, there you go. Fajardo Friday Life Lesson. Hope you take it to heart. Thanks for listening.